to Embracing Wisdom with Stacy. That's me. Let's dive into the topic that is guiding my March teachings. And that is a topic that I've taught many, many years. And it basically is this: we're going to prepare our soil. We are going to get our hands dirty. We're going to clear out the stuff that's getting in the way, and we're going to prepare to plant something amazing. Now, if you are a gardener, or maybe you just have a pot on your patio and that's your growth for the summer. Before you can plant new things in the soil, you have to do one very important thing. And that is you have to put your hands in that pot or the garden or just the patch of earth, and you have to pull out last year's old stuff. You have to pull the trash that's blown in over the winter. You have to get rid of all the dead leaves, all the twigs, all of the stuff, the roots from last year that are over and done with, and you have to yank them out. Now, some will say you have to keep some of that material and just throw it in and, excavate it in there, rototill it in there. And yes, there is some truth to that. But if we're talking about our heart and we're talking about how are we going to grow this month of March, this season of growth, the first thing we have to do is look at what is in our heart that is potentially getting in the way of our joy, our growth, our expansion as human beings. And we have to be willing and be brave enough to get our hands in there and pull it out. It does not mean that that emotion that's in your heart that might be taking up way too much space isn't real and valid and doesn't have a place in your life. In order for you to grow, though, it's got to be removed. You can acknowledge it and you can say, you know what, this is a very disappointing thing in my life. But in order for you to grow and truly bloom and flourish this spring and summer and be able to share your bounty with the world, you have to remove some of it, if not all of it. Now, I'll give you an example. In my heart, there is a lot of disappointment. I have disappointment over my failed hip replacement that has completely changed my life. I'm disappointed in my inability to do the work that I want to do at the level I want to do it, but that's not going to change. It's real and valid. It's present. But if I really want to grow this spring and summer and share my bounty with the world, I have to be willing to reach my hand in my heart and say, okay, this is a failure. This sucks. But I don't want it taking up so much real estate in my heart that I can't find joy in my life. So I'm going to pull it out by the roots, acknowledge it, and I'm just going to set it aside. When it's gone, or most of it is out of my heart, I now have this beautiful, rich landscape in which I can plant something new, like joy and happiness and hope. But I would not be able to plant those things if I was cluttered up with disappointment. The same as if you wanted to plant green beans. You couldn't put the green beans in a pot that has old flowers from last year. There would be no space for the green beans. You have to be willing to pull out last year's dead stuff and some trash that blew in, because we all have a little trash, and pull it out, clean it up. So that's what preparing your soil is all about, in thinking in terms of a yoga way of taking some of the philosophy and teachings of yoga and applying it to our life. In yoga worlds, this is a niyama called saucha, and it means cleanliness and purity. It means taking areas of our life, whether that's in our heart or in our mind or even in our environment, and clearing out some of the clutter. They often say that whatever your environment is often a reflection of your inner self. And so if your office is covered in papers and you can't find anything, probably you have too much on your mind or in your heart. And that requires some spring cleaning. So you can look at it a lot of ways. But even taking the 30 days that we have in March and committing to cleaning out a junk drawer, cleaning out a closet, donating some clothes that you haven't worn in 6 months, looking at emotions that are taking up way too much space in your heart that you can't change, looking at what you're consuming. How much of us think only in terms of food, what we put into our mouth as consumption? There's so much more. How do we spend our money? How do we spend our time? Do we overconsume social media to the point where we're not present with the people around us? I'm telling you, when you actually look in the app at the time that you spend on certain social media apps, you might be shocked to think an hour and a half of my life was gone by scrolling, looking at people, looking at dogs. Not a bad thing, but how much of that incoming consumption is negative and unhealthy? That's where we start to look at how am I spending my time? Do you watch the news? Some people enjoy it. I'm not knocking the news. But if it's causing you aggravation, if it's causing you pain and distress and upset, that's a choice for you. Is it getting in the way of your joy? Doesn't mean we bury our heads in the sand. It's just how much do we consume? You can still be informed and know what's going on in the world, but sometimes there are certain news stations that have the booming music. The the cadence into which they speak the news can be exhausting for the nervous system. So if you're finding overwhelm, I would challenge you to remove some of the things that you're consuming in terms of social media and television and news. Now you can think about spring cleaning your body. A lot of people do detoxes in the month of March, cleaning out the body from winter foods, heavier foods, less activity, and really starting to cultivate that sense of cleanliness and purity known as saucha. It has to do with everything. It has to do with our heart, our mind, our physical body, our environment, what we're consuming. Do we just pile up our mail and wait till a rainy day to read it? That's not necessary. Take the time to go through those envelopes and get rid of stuff. We don't need to have all our stuff and all these wasted papers around us. So, March is where we transform. But before we transform, we have to clear out. Can you imagine trying to, let's say, paint your living room with all of the furniture and all of the books and all of the things in it? Absolutely not. You would move everything out and make space for transformation. The same goes with our growth on ourselves. In order for you to grow into joy and happiness and service, whatever it is you want to grow into, you have to be willing to move out the things that are in the way. That's what March is all about for me. And I've been teaching this topic for years and years and years. And I wanted to change it up this year, but it's just so good that before we can plant anything in our hearts and in ourselves, we have to get rid of the old stuff. So think about that flower pot sitting on your back deck or the raised bed that you have that's just waiting and ripe for new seeds. There's probably a lot of old stuff from last year that's taking up a lot of the space. And you would never expect green beans to grow in a bed that's full of old stuff. So, if you want a new way of being, if you want more joy, more happiness, more purpose in your life, you have to be willing to pull out some of the other stuff. And that can be doubt, fear, insecurity, disappointment, anger, bitterness, sadness, grief. Pull it out. Doesn't mean that it's not real and valid, but it's taking up too much space. You can put it aside, but don't let it pile up and get cluttered. I'm kidding. Look at your life. Make some changes this month. That's all about the rototilling. It's all about the movement, turning over the soil in your life to prepare for something new and different. That's what March is all about. And I love this idea. I created an essential oil blend to align with March, and it's called Optimism because it's this idea that there's something new around the corner, that I am optimistic, that my life is going to take a turn in some direction, and I'm going to have something new and beautiful to experience. In history, in my own life, March has been a pivotal month for me. It was on an early March day that I woke up probably 28 years ago, 30 years ago, and said, I'm done. I'm done being heavy. I'm done being toxic. I'm done being fat. I'm done being just overly heavy in all areas. I was filled with toxic emotions, filled with too much body weight, filled with anger. I had to get rid of it. In the month of March, I changed a major job and stepped into owning my own business. In March, I also closed out a long-term relationship so that I could evolve into who I am today. March is a big month, maybe for you, but I know for sure for me. So think about it. I'm going to loop back to this in coming episodes. How do we turn over the soil in our heart so that we can truly plant something that's going to create beauty in our life or sustainability in our life? It doesn't have to be beautiful, but sustainability, which is like growing your own food, right? Not relying on something else. How do you sustain a different life? That's what I want to teach you this month is preparing your soil for major change, major growth. All right, my friends, I will see you all soon. Be sure to loop back in the coming episodes. We'll talk more about this. Take care and have a beautiful, beautiful day. And go clean out a junk drawer, clean out a closet. You'll feel better afterwards, promise.